From my house to your house, welcome and greetings, and thank you for joining with us for our time of worship and reflection. There will still be some time before we can worship together in a church building. But remember, we are all in this together, and just a phone call to the person you usually sit next to in church may give you some comfort. There is light at the end of the tunnel. It is just that we don't know how long the tunnel is at the moment. Our reading is from Matthew 14, verses 13 to 21. Jesus feeds 5,000 men. As soon as Jesus heard the news, he went off by himself in a boat to a remote area to be alone. But the crowd saw where he was headed and followed by land from many villages. So when Jesus came out of the wilderness, a vast crowd was waiting for him, and he pitied them and healed their sick. That evening, the disciples came to him and said, "It is already past time for supper, and there is nothing to eat here in the desert. Send the crowds away so they can go back to the villages and buy some food." But Jesus replied, "That isn't necessary. You feed them." "What?" they exclaimed. "We have exactly 5 small loaves of bread and 2 fishes." "Bring them here," he said. Then he told the people to sit down on the grass, and he took the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes, looked up into the sky and asked God's blessing on the meal. Then broke the loaves apart and gave them to the disciples to place before the people. And everyone ate until full. And when the scraps were picked up afterwards, there were 12 basketfuls left over. About 5,000 men were in the crowd that day, besides all the women and children. These are words of faith. Thanks be to God.
Hello everyone. Today we're coming from Cornish College, which is here in our neighbourhood. I've been involved here as chair of the board, but what I wanted to point out today is the motto of Cornish College. It's make a difference. And that's the theme of our thoughts today as we listen to Jesus calling his followers to join him in making a difference. Cornish College nearly didn't exist. Before 2011, the Cornish campus was part of St Leonard's College, and in the beginning of 2011, St Leonard's decided to close this campus. It seemed there was nothing that could be done, but a small group of parents said, well, maybe there is. Maybe we could do something together. They weren't very important people. They didn't have huge resources, certainly not enough to buy the whole property. But they believed that working together, they could make a difference. So with help from amazing people, help from the Uniting Church, and it is a Uniting Church school, and everyone working together, we were able to begin Cornish College at the start of 2012. There were only a small group of students then, and we've grown. There are around 700 students now, and buildings have grown. It's grown because people believed that it was worthwhile, believed that this style of education could actually make a difference in the lives of young people, that people who others thought were nobodies and nothings could really make a difference. That's worth thinking about, because for so many of us we doubt that. There seem to be these little tapes inside our heads that keep playing, saying, oh, you're nobody, you can't do anything worthwhile, you're hopeless, you'll fail. But Jesus thinks different. He thought differently back then when we read the story about the loaves and the fishes. It's what the disciples were thinking way back then in the reading we had about the loaves and the fishes. Jesus had been teaching people, healing people all day, and there was a huge crowd, and he realised that they'd be hungry. So he said to the disciples, we need to give them something to eat. Now, the disciples were very good at their maths. They worked out that there were at least 5,000 men, plus women and children, And then they thought, well, if we've got to feed them, there'd be, well, what would you say, 5 people to a loaf? That would give them a little bit of bread. And then a loaf's going to cost you, what, $4? So that's $4,000. Then there's the women and children, so at least another $1,000 there, so that's $5,000. Plus the fish. Fish is dear, that must be another $5,000. $10,000, they said, we won't even try. That's way beyond our resources. Jesus thought differently. Actually, in this story from Matthew, the little boy who brings the 5 loaves and 2 fishes isn't mentioned, but what's really important is Jesus said, if we start from the small amount that you have, from who you are, and you get involved in God's plan, you can make a difference. And so Jesus started with the small amount that was there, the small group of disciples that people looked down on, and the 5 loaves and 2 fishes, and he said, let's share this love. And it says, there was enough for everyone and basketfuls left over. You see, it's 2 different styles of operating. The world teaches us to operate on a principle of scarcity, to say, oh, we might miss out, so we better grab what we can. Well, in this pandemic time, it's the toilet paper syndrome of people grabbing more than they need and end up with some would have none. But Jesus says no. God operates on a principle of generosity, a principle that there is of abundance, there's more than enough. You see, Jesus knew that God's love will never run out. However much we give, God will give us more. When we give love away, God renews our love. And that's the principle on which we need to work. It's why here at Cornish we believe that if we put in, God would help us and we would be able to work with young people who would make a difference. The reason I keep coming back to that make a difference is that's the motto that we adopted for this school. It was because we believed that young people, as they grow, could make a difference. And it's been just amazing to see those little children grow and be believed in, believe that they could do something worthwhile. And they have gone on to make a difference in all sorts of ways. It's the same with us. We can say, our church is too little, we're nobody important, there's nothing much we can do, we won't even try. But Jesus says, yes, you can. You can make a difference. Your church can make a difference if you dare to believe that God's love can transform you, our church, and this world. We can make a difference.